go anywhere or for the whole part. If you say that, you see the improving effectiveness is very important in the sampling. Another one is that reduction of data gathering bias. If you use sampling in your research, you definitely reduction of data gathering bias. So without biasness, you can collect the data from these sampling methods. Because if you see the one basic reason for using samples is that the population may often be used so large that it may not be possible to collect information from all the individuals or groups who compose it. So that's why the need of the sampling is very, very crucial for reduction the cost. And another one, the speeding of the data gathering process, improving effectiveness also, and the very minimize the biasness of the data gathering. So this is the need of the sampling. For that, sampling design steps. If we go for through the sampling design, what are the steps kept in mind to design a good sample? And a system analyst or research scholars needs to follow focus these steps. Determining the data to be collected or described, for whom we want to collect the data, and how we can describe it. Another one is determining the population to be sampled. First, we should in our mind that where is our population, uh, whom is our population, maybe means uh, rural areas or urban areas or children or like that. So first determine the population to be sampled and the choosing the type of sample. I'll discuss later on about the types of sampling methods. So we should try to understand the which sample techniques is very useful for the collecting the data. So choosing the type of sample, which one is, and another thing deciding on the sample size. Yes, very important aspect, deciding on sample size. 30% or 20% or 10%, which is better for our study, yeah, how much our population, and as I discussed about the sample, whole purpose in the portion of the your study. Now is the very important uh, aspect if we discuss about the main things. Dear fellow friends, as we know that types of sampling. So simply we can say that two types of sampling is available, probability sampling, and another one is non-probability sampling. When we talk about the probability sampling method, as we know that simply probability in which every unit of population to be sampled has a known probability or chance of being included in the sample. Means probability sampling are divided into the four main points. So is a method where member of population has an equal chance being selected. So everybody can participate. So that this is we can say that the probability. It's also based on random selection, which has reduced biasness, allowed to statistical inferences or examples. include. If you understand all these things, you can. For that, as another one is, as I told about non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling or judgment sampling is based on the personal judgment. Here, under this method, a desired number of sample units are selected deliberately or purposely depending upon the object of any inquiry, so that only the important items respecting the true means characteristics of the population are included in the sample. So we can say that non-probability sampling are divided into further 4 points. As I told, simply we can say that sampling is basically two types: probability, every individual and equal chance of being selected. As I told, in probability sampling is equal chance to everybody individual, and here not equal, not give the everyone an equal chance. Is the based on convenience or researcher judgment, which can introduce a bias. This method is used when random sampling is not practical. So convenience of the further classification of the non-probability sampling. So you say the classification of sampling methods. In this slide, you can see the method of the sampling. Basically, two types of sampling methods. One is probability sample and another one the non-probability sample. Within a probability, as I discussed, the equally chance to the variables to give the response. And further, we can classify probability sampling, maybe systematic, stratified, cluster, and simple random. These are the basic major points of the probability sampling. Four, and another one is second one, as I told, non-probability. If we go in through non-probability, we found also 4 points: convenience and judgment, quota, and snowball. So these are the classification further after sampling method. As I told, we have the sampling method. Sampling means sample from the whole portion, is a subset from the whole population. And method, basically two types of methods. One is probability and another is non-probability. And further classification of the method of the sampling techniques may be in four, and another one is cluster and convenience, snowball, assessment, and also quota. Now we will discuss about probability sampling first. In probability sampling, I will uh, discuss first simple random sampling. As you see the name of the simple, that's why we can say simple random sampling. The purest form of probability sampling. This is the very purest form of the probability sampling. Assures each element in the population has an equal chance being included in the sample. So a simple random sample is randomly selected subset of a population. In this method, filling to give the a response. So each member of the population has an exactly equal chance of being selected. Simple random refers to that the sampling technique in which each and every unit of the population equally opportune item get selected in the sample, just a matter of chance. Personal bias or investigator does not influence in the selection. So it is the straightforward and requires minimal advance knowledge about the population. If you see in example, the American community survey use a simple random sampling. For that, the officials from the follow a random state and selection of individual inhabitants of the United States for a year. So asking the detailed questions so the from the questionnaires, conclusions about the entire US population. So because simple random sampling, simply we can use the two systems, maybe lottery system or grid system, depend on both. So this is the simple random sampling. So randomly select subset of a population and each member of the population has an exact equal chance of being selected or straightforward and require minimal advanced knowledge about the population. You can see it through this example. Another example, if you see the in the class of MLIS, total number is not 30 for the digit number, and we want to distribute them under this faculty mean. For this task, we will prepare small slip for all means 30 students, and we will fold in any of the slip kept in a pot or head. So after that, can pick it how much we need it. So this is the very simple example of the random text mix of sampling method. Another one is you say systematic sampling. If we see the as the distinct systematic sampling is a technique where researchers select members or population at regular intervals determined in advance. Means this sampling is obtained a collection of elements by drawing every nth person from a predetermined list of persons. In simple words, it is randomly selecting the first respondent and then every nth person after that. N is a number of term as sampling intervals. If you see in the slide, the first of all, the population and serial numbers from 1 to n, numerous numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, thousand, lakhs, and so on. And the size sample is determined. Sample size means interval is determined dividing the population of the size of the sample n upon n equal to k means sample interval small n sample size and n capital size of population. So if you see the name is systematic, so we can go through this systematic way. Means intervals, nth interval. For example, I take other example. Imagine your sample from a hospital patient For that, the list is divided into 50 departments, each ordered by the age, means youngest to oldest. You have a list in the 50 departments. If you sample every 20th individual, if you sample every 20th individual, you will likely end up with only the oldest person from each department, which won't represent the entire hospital population. So you another example, suppose your population alternates between men, means even numbers, and women odd numbers. So this is the nth. So if you choose to sample every 10th individual, you will end up with only men in your sample, so which would be unrepresented. So you can understand from these examples what is the systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is nothing but simply we can say in the systematic means one third add another one systematic one tenth, fifth, 20th, fifth, 30th. So gap with the 10, 10, 10. So this is the
पूरा फुल इंग्लिश में ले रहा भैया जो
systematic sampling.
Sir, speaking in
Hello. Another one is stratified. If you understand the stratified sampling techniques, the stratified sampling techniques under this method, a simple sample is taken from a list prepared on a systematic arrangement, either on the basis of alphabetic order or any other method. Steps involved in a systematic sample, like the researcher divided a population into homogeneous subpopulations called strata. Strata means subgroups on a specific characters, maybe race, maybe gender identity, maybe location, or like others. Each member of population belongs to exactly one stratum, only particular strata. So researcher then sample from each stratum using another probability sampling methods. For example, a cluster sampling or simple random sampling. For that, this allows them to estimate statistical measures for each subpopulation. Means this is simply we can say that the strata. Strata means a subgroup, a particular population, a homogeneous population. Same line, maybe in the race, maybe identity or like. I'll give you the examples. Please, you see. Use cases, maybe serving employees from different parts in the company. For that, imagine you are studying job satisfaction in a large organization. You divided employees in the strata based on the department, maybe HR, maybe marketing. If you choose the HR, you only take the data from the HR employees. You take from the data marketing, so only marketing. Then you randomly sample from department to get a balance. Another example, I'll go. As we are going to select the sample of three libraries, library A, B, C. So library A has 25% and library C has 100%. And for the study, we want to select only sample 9. Then we will select in each B3 equal to 9. This is called stratified sampling. We use We simply we take the data after strata define. After deciding the strata, we can take the data easily. Yes. Another one is the cluster sample. Cluster sampling. If you see the cluster sampling, under this method, if you see total population is divided into some recognizable subdivisions. Recognizable subdivisions like cluster, which are termed as clusters, and a simple random sample of these clusters is drawn, and then the survey of each and every unit in the selected cluster is easily made. So there are some principles of the cluster sampling. Cluster should be small as possible with cost and limitations of the survey, and the number of sampling units in each cluster should be approximately same. Like in this slide, you can see the cluster. Name of the cluster means researchers divided the population in a small groups, maybe in the whole area, maybe in the university, maybe in the state, or maybe in that. So called the cluster. We prepare as a cluster. So these clusters are often pre-existing units. Pre-existing units such as school, cities, households, or like any other clusters. So first, if you researcher uh, collect the data from the cluster sampling, should go prepare the small group of like the clusters. So researcher then randomly select clusters to form their sampling. If you see the example, in this example, suppose you want to determine the average reading level of seventh grader in your city. So instead of collecting data from individual students across the entire city, maybe it is not possible also. So you can easily obtain a list of all schools and sample from them. So clusters, seventh grader grouped by the school they attend. So this is called cluster sampling. Prepare uh, uh, different small clusters, and you can collect the data from the cluster. So these are the basic points, or we can say the classify the technique which we knows probability sampling. This is the probability sampling part. Probability part in the population, sample known probability or chance of being included in the sample. Maybe simple random sampling, stratified sampling, systematic sampling, and cluster sampling. Now, come to the non-probability sampling method. Non-probability sampling method. If we see in this non-probability, as I discussed about the non-probability sampling, under this method, a desired number of sample units are selected deliberately. I'm saying deliberately or purposely, depending upon the objects of inquiry, so that only the important items respecting the true characteristic of the population are included in the sample. As I discussed in this four, another classification. Number one, convenience sampling. It is known as unsystematic, careless, accidental, or opportunistic sampling. Again, I am would like to discuss means this convenient sampling, also known as unsystematic, careless, accidental, or opportunistic sampling. Why? Because the name is convenience, is a non-probability sample. The units are selected for the inclusion in the sample because they are easiest for the researcher to access. Under this method, a sample is selected according to the convenience of the research scholar. So this convenience may be in respect of availability of the data and accessibility of the units. So this method may be used maybe when the universe is not clearly defined. This population is not clearly defined. Also, when sampling unit is not clear. Also, sampling unit is not clear, and when a complete source list is not available. So that's we can use the name may be selected, maybe telephone directory, automobile registration, and stock exchange directories, contacting anyone who may chance to be easily available. So we can collect the data from them. This can be due to geographical proximity, availability at the given genie or willingness to participate in the research, sometimes called accidental sampling, convenience sampling, is typical of non-random sampling. For example, yes, maybe interviewing the people at a shopping mall, want to feedback product these. You are researching particular smartphone perfect instead of a random sample. You approach people in the shopping area and ask about their phone choice. Suppose you are searching public perception of the city of Seattle. You have determined that a sample people insufficient to answer your research question. Maybe anyone else. Collect your data. You stand at a subway, statistical approach, passers by, asking them whether they participate in research. You continue to ask unwanted sample sizes. So that's why we say that as per our convenience sample is not, as I said, this is a totally unsystematic or careless and accident. Now, purposive or judgment sampling. Purposive sampling is also called deliberate sampling. Deliberate. Because when the researcher deliberately selects certain units for study from the universe, so it is known as purposive sampling. Means procedure in which experienced research select the sample based on some appropriate characteristic of sample member to survey purpose. So researchers choose this method when they need information rich cases or want to make the most of limited resources. So it is thus under this method there is a deliberate selection of certain units on the judgment of the researcher, and nothing is left to be a chance. Nothing is left chance. So, but it is must be kept in mind that the units selected must be representative of the universe. As you know that the purposive selection denotes the method of selecting a number of groups of units in such a way that the selected group and as nearly as possible the same averages or proportion as a totality with respect to these characteristics which are already a matter of statistical knowledge. So I put the example for that. Focusing on a specific subgroup. We already decided this is the group. You are studying in the new teaching method. So you should teach us demography. Another example, researching success interval, the individuals who achieved extraordinary success despite facing significant challenges. That's why we say that this sampling technique is very purposive, deliberative, or we can say judgment. Already you have taken the judgment for that. So that's why we say that this is the purposive judgment deliberately sampling techniques. Another one is quota. It is also a very simple sampling. Quota, as you know, that the sampling is a special type of stratifying. First of all, in this method, the population is stratified on some basis, preferably on the basis of the characteristics of the population under study. After this number of sample units to be selected from stratum is decided by the researcher in advance. Maybe this sample techniques is known as a quota, which may fix according to some specific characteristics, such as if you see income group. So we can go through only income group people, with the sex, with the occupation, with the political, with the religious affiliations, and so on, like this type of group. So the choice of particular unit for investigation is left to the investigator themselves. So researcher investigate themselves. So investigator try to complete the quota assignment to them from each statum. The investigators usually apply their judgment in the choice of the sample and try to get quiet non-response due to uncooperative nature of this. Investigator select some fresh units himself to complete his work. That's why we said this is the quota sampling. Division into mutually exclusive subgroups called strata. Then these maybe age group, maybe dietary preferences, zip codes, and so on. For example, let's suppose a university library aims to enhance its book collection. Now the book collection. So researchers divided students into strata based on their academic discipline, humanities, science, social science. So equally, the quota are assigned for each discipline. For that, 50 students from humanity, 30 from science, and 20 from social science. So researcher will go only 50 students from humanities, 30 from science, and 20 from social science. Then interviews or survey are to understand topics and reading habits. So we can say that quota sampling is very, very fruitful for those the investigation rate for presidents itself. And last sampling non-probability sampling techniques is snowball sampling. Snowball. You see, in this technique, the researchers begins the research with the few respondents who are known and available to him. Few respondents. Frequently, researcher knows, then they will suggest another one. So other names who meet the criteria of research, who in turn give more new names. This process is continued until adequate number of person or respondent is interviewed until no more respondent are discovered. So that's why we says snowball sampling. So sampling procedure method identities are obtained by information provided by the initial respondents. Snowball sampling is suitable for very tiny population. Those are geographically dispersed. For example, if imagine you wanted to study a rare condition affecting a small number of people. Since this is available, maybe you would like to research on PWD students. So snowball sampling allow you to gradually expand your sample by relying on referral. Again, I am telling referral from existing participants. So this is called snowball sampling. So snowball sampling involve a chain-like process. Chain. You know one, another know two. So this is the chain process where participants refer others, creating a snowball effect. That is called the snowball sampling. So these are the probability sampling and another one non-probability sampling. I have given the examples of all the probability and non-probability sampling. Here, I would like to draw on the some basic errors in the sampling. Maybe whole population, if you see in this graph, population, and we frame, as we know that the sampling means frame the, select the some portion of the respondent from whole, and from them sample means response error, chance error, or frame error. For that, I would like to draw your attention. Should be very careful when you choose the sample technique. For sampling error, if arise, frame error, frame chance depend on the your sampling. If you select the sampling error, so your frame, your chance, your response also be possible the error. So a sampling error occur when there is a difference between characteristics of the sample and the population from which it will be drawn. This can happen due to the chance because the sample is not perfect representation. For example, if you only surveying morning classes or a study on the static sleep habit, on student sleep habits. Data from night class students leading to a sampling error. One, let us see. Like these are the most important factors affecting sampling error. Number one, sample size. You should keep in your mind sample size. Larger samples tend to reduce sampling error. Larger samples tend to reduce sampling error. And smaller samples are more susceptible to random fluctuations. This type of sample size should be uh, taken for the study. Sampling method. As I discussed about the sampling method, probability, both probability and no probability. So you choose probability sampling method generally yield lower error because the chance equal. Last one is the population variability. Is the most important factor the affecting the sample. Heterogeneous population and error. Why? Because heterogeneous introduce
Hello?
homogeneous population
Hello? Hello?
lead to the smaller uh, errors. So, fellow friends, these are the factors which will be affects the sampling error. So, uh, for that, how we can minimize the sample, how we can utilize the sampling techniques. So these are the basic points. You should increase sample size. If you will be better. Large samples tend to reduce sampling errors. Large samples tend to reduce sampling error. So more sample members and closer sample population, reducing the potential for deviation. Another one. For example, if you see in this slide, suppose you are studying user satisfaction within only the library catalog system. So in the surveying a large sample of library users, query provide more accurate insight in their preference in their needs. So always we should careful and should take increase sample size if you want to more and accurate information. Here, now we have discussed all the things about the sampling. So what is the advantages of sampling method? If we see regarding the efficiency, if we understand about the sampling, so sampling enables researchers to learn without having to study every number of that group. Like sampling saves time and resources compared to studying an entire population. Also, collecting data from the smaller group is more efficient and practical in, instead of entire population. So efficiency, sampling save the time also. If you save the time, you should For example, a sample of 100 working women using sampling as a method may involve weeks, but a questionnaire or other method used to search answers from a large population of working women may involve many months. So that's why it is save the distinction units, it increases accuracy of data, it achieves greater response rates, and it achieves greater cooperation from respondent. Yes, as we know that effectiveness, through sampling technique reduce the cost because when we will go to the data collection from the sample is more cost effective than studying the X population for these. Researcher can allocate all resources for more efficient. Also feasibility is a very good example. Means sampling makes research possible when studying large or inaccessible populations. It allows researchers to gather data even when reaching every individual to challenge. So these are the benefits of the selling methods. And every criteria, everything may be merit and demerits. So if we talk about the disadvantage of this, yes, if the sample survey is not carefully planned and executed, the research obtained will be inaccurate, unreliable. This is the demerit, this is the disadvantage of the sampling method. So you should try to understand when you plan, being very careful. If, as I discussed, it may be fake to indicate characteristics of the population. If voluntary sampling relies on volunteers, which can lead to the selection bias. Participants who voluntarily may differ significantly from those who do not. Snowball sampling relies totally on referrals from existing participants. Initially, participants are not representative. The sample may be the divergent. So, fellow LIS and budding professionals, particularly scholars, when you will make sampling and plan and execute it very simply. What point to be remembered for that? Regarding research matters, always know because we will collect the data for the research. So research is the backbone of knowledge acquisition. Knowledge acquisition, knowledge for the problem solving, and as I said, the progress, prosperity of the society. So it allows us to explore, understand, and contribute to various fields. So these points we remember and maybe point out whenever you will go to the study. Another one, the sampling techniques are vital. Yes, very true. Thoughtful sampling ensures that our findings represents the broader population, whether it is a survey, a experiment, or data analysis. So accurate sampling is a very key. Draw valid conclusions. Rigorous sampling minimizes error on well-designed sample. Really depend on when we frame framework define and create the sets. So these are the basic or major point to remember as a researcher. So after all these things, I am concluding my views on statistical, or we can say that sampling methods. Without any doubt, the sampling method is very effective or essential for credible research. Allow to draw conclusions about the population from subset of members. So today we have examined various sampling strategies, each tailored from different research. The of selecting a representative sample to ensure accurate and unbiased results. Remember, the strength of this is directly linked to the robustness of our sample approach. In these words, I presentation has been prepared just from the different resources to the learners understand the topic for academic and research purpose. I duly acknowledge the scholars and the website content whose material has been used in my presentation. That's to all of you, dear fellow research scholars, give a for your kind listening. Thank you, one and all, especially once again, thanks for giving me this. You're free to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I request to participants if you have any likes. Yes, Duriya ma'am.
Good morning,
Please.
sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Sir, I want to question one thing. You told about convenience sampling, right? That is also called accidental sampling. Convenience sampling, which is also known as accidental
ma'am.
sampling.
जी बोलिए हाँ
So, sir, the first type of
जी
sampling, that is simple random sampling.
yes बोलिए
So, should I repeat again?
Yes, please.
Hello.
No, please tell what do you want to ask
जी sir. Sir, simple random.
जी बोलिए
Simple random sampling is also somewhat similar like convenience sampling. We can't say it's authentic, sir. Simple random sampling.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
How, sir?
As I said, madam, please listen. Huh? Convenience as per our convenience. Like as I called as a researcher, because as per our convenience, we will go or we can collect or we collect the data from as per our convenience. That's why I said careless. That's why I said accidental. That I said unsystematic. Okay, ma'am. And another one is you said regarding simple random sampling, right?
Right.
Simple random. Yeah. This form. Why? As your each element in the population of being included in the sample. That's why I said convenience and simple random sampling is totally different. Totally different. Okay, ma'am. Another one, if you want to, I will give another example. You see,
Sir, I am confusing that USA example that you have given about population of USA.
in
Yes, sir.
researching
Okay.
customer support service in a
Okay.
particular region, right?
Right.
Few customers to complete a survey on the products after the purchase. A survey on the products after the purchase. This is an convenient way to the collect data.
Okay.
Still, as we only surveyed customers taking the same product at the same time, the sample is not representative all the customers in that area. So that's why this is the convenience for
Okay.
the scholar. And if you want, yeah, simple random. In simple random, for example, suppose we want to select a simple random sample of 200 students from a school. Here we can assign a number to every student
Okay.
and use a random number generated to select a sample of 200 numbers. So this is the chance all equal. In convenience, there is a no chance. Whatever we available, we can. So this is the very big difference between simple random or convenience sampling type.
My confusion is
Okay.
only is that in simple random, that if I randomly pick up the chits out of my students, okay, I
Yeah.
have given them numbers and I am picking
Okay.
chits.
Yeah.
I want to make monitor in my class to two students, right?
Yeah.
So might be possible that the
Yes.
students who are very introvert, both of them, such kind of student can be selected with this cheat method. So is it right?
Yes, is it right? Depend on us, na? It's not depend us. Depend on them. Hello.
Means as per the quality of the monitor which I want
Hello.
in a monitor, if they are not having such kind of characteristics, and if they are
If you
selected
no
by
no
cheat
no,
method,
the
so is it right?
understand, ma'am. I understand. Yeah, 100% right. Here we will discuss about. We are discussing about the simple random sampling and convenience sampling. Sampling type.
Okay, sir.
And we without any doubt for that simply we would like to collect or select the data from
Okay.
the audience, right?
Ji,
This
sir.
is the
Ji.
way, this is the
Okay, sir. Thank you,
yes,
sir. Thank you
yes,
so
ma'am.
much.
Welcome. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, any other more? Yes. Anyone have any problems or doubt to discuss with sir? Okay, Deepika ji.
Yes, sir. Should I start, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor M.P.Singh for enlightening lecture to our research scholars and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar University. Your insights have inspired us and will undoubtedly shape our academic pursuits. I thank you for patience and dedication to nurturing the next generation of scholars. Our academic community is enriched by your presence, and we are deeply grateful for your invaluable contribution. Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Dr. Professor M.P.Singh, sir, from our university side.
Thank you very much, sir. Welcome, always welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can I
Visit
leave,
again
sir?
to all students.
Can I leave?
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ritesh, sir. Ritesh Mehta. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
Yes, okay. Very soon, sir, is join.
Uh, sure, sir. Sure.
सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को एक सूचना है मेरी, ये जो पूरे आपके लेक्चर्स हो रहे हैं इसके सबके समरी शॉर्ट नोट्स आप बना के रखो, क्योंकि आपको असाइनमेंट में सारे लेक्चर का शॉर्ट समरी लिखना है। तो ध्यान से आप जो लेक्चर हो रहे हैं उसका टाइटल, डेट, रिसोर्स पर्सन, ये सबका शॉर्ट में समरी लिखते जाओ, मिनिमम 1 to 2 पैरा। ओके।
हॅलो सर. हॅलो सर.
यस
हा
यस
सर, म्हणजे आत्ताचे जे रिसोर्स पर्सन आहेत ना त्यांचं नाव आणि आपलं आम्हाला त्याचं टायटल वगैरे जरा सांगितलं तर बरोबर, कारण मी थोडं 10 मिनिटं लेट सर जॉईन झालोय कारण नेटवर्क प्रॉब्लेम होता.
हाँ, तुमचे फ्रेंड्स कडनं घ्या. कुणाल सर ज्वाइन हो गए आप?
हाँ सर, मैं ज्वाइन हो गया. नमस्कार सर.
नमस्ते नमस्ते सर. सर, warm welcome in this pre-periodic coursework, sir, from HRDC and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University. As a convener, I welcome to my dear friend Dr. Kunal sir. Now I request to Ritesh sir. Please introduce sir. Ritesh sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to Honorable Sir, as well as someone who is coordinating to us. It's an honor and privilege to welcome you all once again to the second part of the day today. And it's a great privilege to know about and to introduce one of the visionary research person and still a researcher and co-researcher at heart, Dr. K. Datta. Dr. Kunal Datta is working as an assistant professor in the Industrial Automation Division at Deen Dayal Upadhyay Kaushal Kendra of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University since the year 2013. He has obtained PhD in physics from the same university. His research interest includes the functional nano material chemical sensors, low cost instrumentations, lean manufacturing in operations, and industrial networking. He has published 56 articles, scholastic, scientific platforms. These platforms are something which are renowned throughout the world. Dr. Datta takes special interest in the development of indigenous didactic for effective knowledge impartation. He is a regular solution provider to the industries in the field of instrumentation, automation, and SPM design. He has obtained 6 patents. Yes, the process which we heard before few days, one of the challenging processes to complete, and he has done it for 6 times in different domains. He's presently involved in investigation on possible OPC solution for low-end technology with the standard industrial communication protocols and second or higher order differential equations on recursive robot dynamics. An avid nature enthusiast, Dr. Datta has contributed to the platforms like National Geographic Journal. It's a matter of honor and pride to introduce Dr. Datta. Thank you so much, and it's over to you, sir.
Mr. Kunal sir, please start your guidance to all of students in both language, English as well as Hindi or Marathi. Please, Kunal sir.
Thank you sir. Thank you. Am I audible? आप लोग
Yes sir. Yes. Yes.
Perfect. That means the channel is okay. I would simply try to share the screen. I hope my screen is visible to all. Huh?
Yes sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. It's
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. So thank you for my introduction. Now I would like to talk about copyright today. Professor Pathak sir has told me to give you some light on this particular process of copywriting. Let me tell you that the subject of IPR, copyright, patent, geographical indication or trademarks, whatever it is, they are purely legal subjects, right? And I always believe that a person who is a good author, who is a good lyricist or a good musician, he might never be a good lawyer, so that he can get a patent by his own self or copyright by his own self. Many times I have found that a very good researcher is not that good in legal writing. Even I am not that good. In such a circumstances, why we are going through this particular topic of IPR or copyright? See, a country like US, if you look into the yearly budget of US, you could find that 26% of the total budget of US comes from the intellectual property that the country is generating. Now, this intellectual property contains patents, copyrights, trademarks, because definitely whenever you are awarded with a copyright or with a patent or some another intellectual property right, definitely you earn something in terms of money. And whenever you earn something, you contribute to the national wealth through some or other form of tax. And that's why it becomes very important that we become at least a person equipped with introductory knowledge of this field, so that while doing a research, we do understand that in what direction we should drive our thinking, drive our research process, so that our work can lead to some or other type of intellectual property right. And today we are going to discuss on copyright. Remember that copyright is the non-industrial intellectual property right. Here, industrial application word, which is one of the most important paraphrase of this intellectual property rights, it is not going to be used. And therefore, copyright is always known as a non-industrial intellectual property. And it is extremely important to understand that if it is tough to get a patent by an individual, many a times if he does not have access to a good lab or something, but copyright can be taken if your brain is enough green. You can have just a pen and paper, you can jot down something, some beautiful design you can make, some artistic work you can come out, and definitely you can have a copyright of that. Remember that the subject of copyright is extremely vast, and there are so many legal jargons, tacitons, and cataclysms that I cannot cover within 1.5 hours of time. But still, I would like to give you enough light on some important sections of copyright, so that while working in your particular domain, you can have those things on back of your mind, and accordingly you can shape your thoughts and your research process, as I have already discussed. So let us start at the beginning. Since this is a legal lecture, I am to make a simple disclaimer that you kindly consider this entire lecture, whatever information I am giving, because whatever I am giving, nothing comes out of my knowledge. They are all written somewhere in terms of law or in terms of different bylaws and their explanations done by judicial experts. So I will try to keep those things in a summarized form in front of you and try to explain the things in my words. Remember that these information are introductory in nature and kindly do not consider them as final guideline, because if you get into any legal proceeding, then these words must be taken as a guideline, and I always suggest and advise that you kindly get into the Copyright Act of 1957 and its amendments thereafter, especially the amendment of 1994, before getting into any legal litigation. And at the same time, please remember that this particular lecture should not be produced as a record in any court of law, since this is merely informative thing. And therefore, if you come across any litigation factor out of this particular lecture, neither me nor Dr. Suhas Pathak nor Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University will be responsible by any means. Whatever I have taken, as I have told you, I have put the references here because this is actually one of the important traits of copyright, that whenever you make a presentation, that you all should remember from this day, whenever we make a presentation, whatever is the source from which we are taking the matters of presentation, we have to put that right in front of the audience so that everybody comes to know that who are helping in building this lecture. So here are the reference for your kind information. So initially at the outset, what I will do, I will just have a brisk look into this concept of intellectual property, so that I could learn that you have already gotten lecture of intellectual property rights before. I will just have a 2-minute brush up with that, and then I will get into the subject of copyright, because while starting, I want to ensure that all of us are on the same platform. So let us try to understand what sort of property we are having with us. So if I ask you this question, then you may think a bit, and you can come out with several properties that you are having, you are owning, that you are enjoying that, and that you may have a smartphone, you may have a plot in your name, or a flat or a bungalow, what you are having. You may have a 2-wheeler or a 4-wheeler, and all these things are there. At least you can have a pen which you own and which you are a proud owner. I have purchased this pen with this vector pen of 250 rupees today, and I am a proud owner of that. See, these are all properties. We enjoy the ownership of this property, and we must remember that all such properties, they are tangible properties. They are tangible. Tangible means we can touch them. Very simply, we can touch them. They have got a physical existence. These are all tangible properties. Remember that as an owner, whenever we have got some such sort of property with us, we enjoy the exclusive right over the same. See, this is a legal terminology, exclusive right. Exclusive right means if I am the owner, I am the only owner of such a thing. If I have got a flat today, I have purchased a flat today, I will not ask anybody to come to live with me as a partner in that, because that is only my property. Okay, you can come, definitely come as a guest, but that does not mean that you are a co-owner of that property. So whenever we are talking of such things, we are extremely considerate about the ownership. हम लोग कुछ भी खरीदने से पहले, समझो हम एक सेकंड हैंड कार खरीदने जा रहे हैं, और we are going to purchase a plot or a bungalow, whatever it is, we for several times we check the legal papers whether they are correct or not. We take some legal advice before getting into the final dealing. We do all such things. Why? Because tomorrow some case may appear in which some other person might get into the figure all of a sudden, and he will say that, oh, this is my property, how you are asking for a right into this. So that's why I am talking about that for such things, for our tangible properties, we are extremely considerate. Let me tell you one example, that even we are having one 10 rupee pen in our pocket, and somebody asks to give that pen while we are in a bank or some public place, we are very serious whether that gentleman will give us the pen back. So we are so much considerate about the properties that are tangible in nature. Now let us come down to the figure of intangible properties. These intangible property are a type in which we can call that our intellectual property falls upon. You can see that intellectual property is a property that is the outcome of, very simply, our mind, our intellect, and our creativity. Through our thoughts, through our consciousness, whatever property we can make, that becomes our intellectual property. I will give a very small example. Suppose there are 40 students sitting in a class and one professor is giving a lecture. He is delivering a lecture. It may so happen that one of the student might take a very good note of that honorable professor, and soon after his or her lecture is over, he or she is ready with that note. Now, rest of the 39 of the students may not be that much smart to take that notes in such a beautiful manner. Now everybody will go to that person and ask for that note because that will be helpful for everybody. Now when such a thing happens, that particular thing becomes, and if he wants, he may take some 100 rupee or 500 rupee for his note. He can earn out of that particular intellectual property that he has created. So in that way we can say effort you can take that may give rise to some financial leverage that you have to keep in your mind. So in that way you can think that whatever invention, innovation, original design work, some trademark design you have made, or if you come across some artistic creation throughout your brain, everything becomes an asset to you. Now whenever there is an asset, there is always a possibility that somebody will try to steal that asset. And as we are extremely sincere, when we purchase a mobile phone, we always go to the shopkeeper and say that give me the bill, because we want to have the credit of the ownership. So whenever we are having such a intellectual asset with us, we should have the same sort of thing in our mind, and therefore we must have a right over our intellectual asset. And this right cannot be generated all of a sudden from the ground. You have to have some legal support behind that, and that legal support can really safeguard your assets. And this legal support gives you a right for your intellectual asset, and this right is nothing but the intellectual property right. Now you can see that, as I have already discussed a bit, intellectual property is just like another asset. You can sell it, you can purchase it from a different person, you can mortgage it for taking a loan, you can take a license for such a right, or you can give license to somebody to use your right, or you can even exchange that, right? Now you can see that another point is very important. The third point you can find, I may go for this thing. Okay, I go for a laser point. You can see the third point, which is extremely important, that when you have a legal right over the property, you are the exclusive owner. Exclusive owner means nobody can have a claim that you enjoy. Finally, if you have got an intellectual property right, one is the legal right over that matter, and definitely such type of financial leverage, it is also
कुणाल सर बीच बीच में आपका वॉइस
matter
कट रहा
of
है.
tremendous wealth. Now is it okay?
हाँ, yes, yes, yes.
Am I audible?
हाँ, yes, sir.
Okay, okay, fine. So in that way, there is always a possibility that you are a contributor to the national wealth. Now you see, I will give a beautiful example. No, before that, I will get into this classification. Okay, you can see that this intellectual property domain, it can be broadly classified into two parts. One is the industrial property and other is the copyright. So today we are going to discuss more on the copyright, and I am not going to discuss another aspect, that is the patent, design, trademark and geographical indication. I am going to discuss today with the domain of writing, musical work, dramatic work, paintings and drawings, sound recording, broadcast, or any sort of artistic performance that comes under the jurisdiction of copyright. Now you can see, I will give you a beautiful example. See, this is a bottle of Coca-Cola which costs only 12 rupees. But remember that this simple bottle is a treasure house of different sort of intellectual property. Just for an example, you can find that this cap, this is a tamper resistant cap design. Tamper resistant means you cannot tamper it once it is sealed. Okay, so there is a utility patent for this cap. Then you can see this Coca-Cola. This Coca-Cola is a trademark. So whatever this logo is, that Coca-Cola logo, there is a trademark for this Coca-Cola logo. The name Coca-Cola, it's a copyright of that particular firm, this name Coca-Cola. Let me tell you that once I had been to some village place in my native back in Kolkata. There I could find one bus stand. I cannot recall that place, name of that place, but there I asked for this cold drink, one soft drink bottle. They had given me a bottle, the name was Jhampa Cola. Really, I am telling you, it might be a very ridiculous thing, but it is a fact. Jhampa Jhampa Cola. So I what is this Jhampa Cola? I think somebody,
लागतील असं घेऊन फोटो आधार कार्ड पॅन कार्ड तुझं चेकबुक पण घे जे चेक द्यायचं आपलं ते
I think you may kindly mute yourself. Okay, so it may so happen that somebody comes out with such a name Jhampa Cola because he might make a product of the same quality of Coca-Cola. He might be able of the same quality, same taste, whatever, but he cannot use the name Coca-Cola because of the copyright that is he is having. Finally, you can have, I think somebody is having its mic open. Kindly mute yourself. Okay, and now you can see the bottle. This bottle is having its own trade dress and design patent. And finally, you can see that this bottle is filled up with a liquid that we enjoy, that is having the trade secret. That is having the trade secret. Trade secret is not a part of Indian intellectual property right, but since this particular right is taken in US and it is having a PCT patent across 193 countries over the world, that is a trade secret still now for everybody, for every manufacturer, that what is the formula of this liquid. So you can see this 12-liter bottle is having 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 intellectual property rights owned through it. So this is the importance and beauty of intellectual property, which actually gives you tremendous allowance of financial gain. So this is what an idea of IPR that I tried to brush from your mind. And now I am going to get into the topic of copyright. I hope the slide is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So now I will get into the factor. Many times I am to read several words because these several words, they are extremely legal in nature. We cannot omit them. So you be extremely considerate to each and every word that I will be talking. Now you can see that whenever we talk of a copyright, it is nothing but a right, as I have already told you. It is a right, and this right is given to the creator or the owner. See, one is the creator and other is the owner. You should know the difference. Who is a creator? Creator is the person who has himself created that work. And owner is the person who may be a employer of an organization where you are working and you have created some work, and that becomes the legal right of that owner because of some earlier treaty in between you and the owner. For an example, let me tell you the example of film producer. If I take the film of Mohabbatein or any sort of film, you can see that that is the film which is a copyright of Yash Raj Films. Now, what Yash Raj Films has done? Yash Raj Films has only funded it. If I talk of the film, the music has been given by somebody. He is the creator of the music. Somebody is a director who is again creator of the direction part. There are some actors who are creator of the total acting scenario of that movie. Yasraj Films has done nothing. Only he becomes the owner because he has made such type of legal agreement with all these domains, so that after completion of the film, the entire property becomes a property of Yashraj Films. So this is a difference of creator and owner that you have to clearly understand. So definitely, if suppose you are working under a firm, be very sure that if you are having some sort of artistic responsibility on you, you need to be extremely sure that after the artistic work is published, and if there is a possibility that some copyright will be generated out of that, who will be the owner? Be very careful of that and do the legal proceedings before you get into such action. Otherwise, what will happen? You will do the hard work and some extra person or some other person will get the fruit out of that. Okay, if you are paid heavily for that, he may say that although he has done this, I have paid heavily to him. No problem. Mr. Shah Rukh Khan will definitely not sue Mr. Yash Chopra so that, "Arey bhai, tumne mujhe paisa nahi diya." You have paid him. They have paid him fatly, so he is happy. Let the rights be with Yash Raj Films. He has got no problem. Likewise, only you need to be considerate. Now, for what a copyright is given? A copyright is given for, you can see here, these three terminologies have been given: his, her, their. It is very implicit that this can be of any gender, or it can be also given collectively to a group. It will be given for a non-industrial intellectual property. As I have already told, that copyright is a purely non-industrial intellectual property. So that, why this right is given? This right is given so that some other person cannot reproduce it for his financial benefit without your concern. Concern means little written concern, legal concern, or legal bindings in between you and him or her. So in that way, copyright is a right which is given to the creators and owners. There is a certain set of law. This is given for a non-industrial intellectual property, and it is giving you that right so that somebody other cannot use or reproduce it for his own advantageous gain. That you have to remember. Now you can see that if I talk about India, because I am specifically talking about the Indian scenario, the Copyright Act of 1957 is applicable in India for Indians. Okay, for Indians, not only Indians, but for any foreign national who wants to have a copyright in India. So it is an act in India for India. Remember, copyright is also a territorial act, because if you take a copyright for certain act in India, there must be some territorial limit, and you have to be very sure about that. Territorial limit means a boundary where that copyright will be confined within. That you have to be sure. Now you have seen that the first Copyright Act was enunciated in this country back in 1957. But after that, there have been several amendments onto that. There have been several additions, deletions only to make the system more facile and more user friendly and more creator oriented, so that the creator can get the best possible benefit out of his creation. The Copyright Act has been amended from time to time, and as I have told, the amendment of 1994 is a very distinguished step in defining the copyright scenario of this country. Now you can see that if you are having a copyright, then whatever laws are there, they provide you certain exclusive rights to you as the holder. What are the rights? The rights are you can reproduce your work, you can distribute your work, you can display your work, you can perform your work, and most importantly, you can make derivative works out of that. Now, what is a derivative work? The best example of a derivative work is a translation. Suppose I have written a book in Bengali and you are very interested to translate it to some other language in this country. Now, for this, you need to take my permission. This is a very noble effort, because if you translate in your language, then my work will be reachable to other part of the country also. I must take it as a benevolence from your side. But if you do not ask for a license for it from me as a copyright holder, that is a legal offense. So this is what is the best example of a derivative work, which you can say that translation is a very good example of derivative work. Even for such a purpose, you have to take proper permission. And what the copyright work actually, if you get a copyright in one word, how it is helping you? It is helping you, in the last line you can see, it is helping you by preventing others from making unauthorized use of your work. So nobody can use your work in an unauthorized manner. Definitely there are some exceptions. What we call in the legal terminology, it is called as fair usage. F-A-I-R, fair usage. So what are the fair usage? The Copyright Act of India has got a very vast list of what is a fair usage. But definitely I will touch that aspect also at the end of my lecture. Now see, I am going through a proper speed, or I am getting faster?
No, sir, very nice speed.
Okay, fine. Now you can see that whenever the term copyright is being told, please remember that whenever we come across any terminology, we ask for a definition. This is our common practice. Now see that this copyright is unfortunately not properly defined in the Copyright Act of 1957. So if I ask you that give a clear definition of copyright in legal language, it will be very hard for anybody of us to give that definition, because the Copyright Manual or the Copyright Act does not give that definition. So I can only express it in my way. So very simply, if I want to express it in a very lucid fashion, it simply means the right to copy. The right to copy. Simple thing. If I have got a copyright and Professor Pathak sir wants this work to be used for some of his work, he is simply copying that. So I must give him that right. And in order to give that right, somebody has to approach me, and it is only my discretion or my decisive point that whether I am going to give this right or not. I will enjoy this flexibility of myself. Next point that you have to remember very clearly, that novelty is not at all required for getting a copyright. Novelty. Why I am stressing on this term novelty? See, because if we talk of some other sort of industrial intellectual property, like a patent or a trademark or a design, then this novelty factor becomes must for such an intellectual property to be awarded with a right. Novelty is a must over there. It is the mandatory statement across any sort of industrial property. However, for this copyright factor, novelty is not at all required. Because how can it be novel? Suppose you want to write a book on maybe Rabindranath Tagore or Sant Tukaram. What sort of novel thing you can write? You may put some sort of light or some of your own analysis into some of their work or some of their part of life. All these things are nothing novel. It is known to all. Now it is your lookout on that.
Media next.
Yes. Anybody has got any question on this issue? Okay. So remember that you cannot put anything novel onto that. Only the thing is your work must be original. Your work must be original. Now, the simple question that comes in your mind is how you are going to test that my work is original. I will come into that aspect at later course of my discussion. Definitely. But remember for time being that novelty is not required. However, originality is the prime requirement for getting your work a copyright, I should say, award with a copyright. Now, another thing that whenever I think of a copyright or I am thinking of getting a copyright, please remember that ideas cannot be copyrighted. Why I am talking on ideas? Because if you look into another important intellectual property, that is a patent. For a patent, even you have got an idea, you can file for a patent. And you get a certain time in your hand, it's a 12 months time to materialize your idea. You get a time for that. So here, this idea is there in my mind and you are putting it on a paper that this particular thing, I have got an idea and this is the basic broad aspects of that idea. Once you file it, you get a priority date. And after that, within 12 months, you have to give everything about that idea onto the paper and submit it to the Indian Patent Office. Remember, this is not possible for copyright. Ideas cannot be patented. आपके मन में कितना भी अच्छा सुर आप गुनगुना लीजिए, जब तक उसको आप रिकॉर्डिंग मोड पे नहीं लाएंगे, तब तक उसकी कॉपीराइट नहीं हो सकता है. रात में मुझे बहुत सुंदर एक सपना आया और उस सपने में मुझे जो कहानी दिखी वो उसका मैं कॉपीराइट लेना चाहता हूं, नहीं हो सकता है. उस कहानी को पेपर में डालिए, उसका कॉपीराइट लीजिए. दिस इज पॉसिबल. So that's why it is important to understand that it is expression it is required and not your ideas which may give you the luxury of a copyright. Now, why the copyright is so important? Because it protects the right of the author over their creation. Now, when their right is protected, then definitely they can be rewarded of their creativity. Not every time. This is not possible with some financial leverage, but it will give you a moral right. That if somebody says कि ये मैंने कुणाल सर के लेक्चर से लिया हूँ, तो मुझे भी अच्छा लगेगा भाई मेरा लेक्चर किसी का काम तो आया. So that's a moral happiness that I get, and that's a definitely ethical frame of mindset which is required in short of getting all those things. Next, the point is that remember that a person can be extremely creative, but if that creation does not give him any financial advantage, then till what time he will keep on creating things? He will be only creating the thing, and nothing is coming out of that. One day he will definitely stop because he has to earn money for his livelihood. So therefore, if your creativity is also contributing to your progress, definitely that will be encouraging you to go for such better creation or more creation in your lifetime. And finally, it is a point of motivation for the not only for the owner but for others also, so that they are induced in creating better things, more things, and therefore an entire environment which induces creativity will be developed in the entire society. And that's why the copyright is such an important aspect so far our personal intellect is concerned. Now you can see, according to the section 13 of this Copyright Act, what items can be copyrighted. It has been clearly defined. And remember that in each and every case, if I talk of simply literary work or musical work or cinematograph work, there are further exhaustive list. I am not sharing all those lists to you because time is limited. You can just go to website of this copyright.gov.in and try to get this act. That is a very not very bulky act, but it's, I think it's a 75 pages act, and that will give you every sort of idea on this copyright. Now you see that what are the work that can be protected by copyright. Number one, it is literary work. Then there is dramatic work, musical work, artistic work, cinematograph, films, and sound recording. These are the broad aspects on which you can get a copyright. And let us now get in each of them one by one. Let us first take the matter of original literary work. Now, you can see that if I talk of an original literary work, then you can think that this is the best product the human mind can imagine. And your imagination, if takes the form of something that is verbal, that is numerical, or any other method that can be written down. You see, earlier I have used a word verbal, but ultimately it has to be written down on some sort of paper. Because as I have already told, expression cannot be copyrighted. Right, sorry, ideas cannot be copyrighted. It must be expressed in a tangible format. So therefore, it must be written down somewhere, which has been developed and formulated due to a particular skill that a person has. So what does that mean? That written down thing, whatever it is because of a particular skill that person is having. So that particular skill is the skill of an author, and the skill of an author has given birth to that particular work, and therefore that literary work is capable of getting a copyright. Now, the Copyright Act, if you get into the Copyright Act, what the literal meaning of an literary work is that you can find. This is not only something that is written on the paper. There are inclusion of tablets, computer databases also in consideration to the digital age, because somebody might have written a particular poem in a WhatsApp message, and later onwards he can find, "Arey baapre, I have made a very good creation." Then he can ask for a copyright. Then your copyright office will not stop that it is not written on a paper, bhai. It is something on a digital media. So in case of this digital era, there has been certain amendments into the law, and therefore I have told you that when you are going for some sort of intellectual property right claim, then you kindly get into the legal aspects properly. This is my utter suggestion to all of you. Let us go for the next. Let us look into original dramatic work. See, so far this dramatic work is concerned, it is any piece of work that includes recitation, choreography, and or entertainment. These three comes under the original dramatic work. Remember that whatever words I am taking, they are simply from the Copyright Act. They are not of my own. So therefore, whatever is written over there, I have not put anything of my own opinion onto that. I have just tried to put that exactly in front of you to let you know where are the scope and what are the limitations. Now you can see that if I consider the dramatic work, then there is no particular exhaustive list that is given. And what can fall into it. So definitely that gives you a limitation, at the same time scope, because a recitation can be with a music, without a music. A recitation can be done in a very dull manner or in a very characteristic or interesting manner, artistic manner. All these things can be copyrighted. Let me tell you. Next comes original music work. If you look into the Copyright Act of 1957, what is an original music work? It is nothing but a work that has music, but should not be any words or action that has to be sung as music. So if you want to take the copyright of a music, then it should be purely music that we are considered with. It is not the lyrics that is embedded with that music or some sort of dance act that is embedded with that music. So you can take copyright of that music. Why I am talking about this? Suppose a particular lyrics has been written by some XYZ person. Somebody gives a music for that lyrics and it becomes a very famous song. So the lyrics has been copyrighted, the music has been copyrighted. Suppose after 100 years of this issue or 50 years of this issue, another person has come. He has used the same lyrics with a different music. And again that music became extremely popular. Now he wants to go for a copyright. Now when he wants to go for a copyright, he cannot copyright for the entire song because the lyrics has been already copyrighted by someone else. So what he has to do? Before making that song, he has to take permission from the copyright owner that for my music, can I use your lyrics? He may allow. He may allow because he has got no interest if he gets money for that. Only he will make an alarm to that person कि भाई मेरा ये lyrics से तो पहले ही गाना बन चुका है. But he may say, no, I will be using the lyrics with a different music. Now he is eligible to get a copyright only for the music. You have to remember. This is what is called the original music work. Now remember that before a music is copyrighted, definitely it should be original music. Originality is the only aspect that you have to remember while going for a copyright. And remember that you are the person who knows this in the best manner. अब आप मेरे पास आए, मैं एक लॉयर हूं समझिए, you came to me and say कि sir, this is the original work I have done. So I will be doing my best possible search through all sort of databases for copyright and thing, and I will do everything. But see, if you are trying to fool me, even if I somehow convince the court to give you a copyright, after the copyright is published and you got the registration, you might be taken to the court of law by issue of infringement. So that's why if you are giving birth to a baby, be very sure about your baby. It's extremely important. आपने कितना कहां से कॉपी किया ये आपको सबसे अच्छा पता है. So try not to put it blindfolded manner. Put light onto that. That will help you tremendously. Now, if we look into original artistic work, then artistic work deals with any sort of painting, drawing, sculpture, or any work which shows artistic qualities. Now, this artistic quality and design, that comes again in very dilemmatic factor whether we should register for a design or we should register for a copyright. Because if the artistic work has got no industrial application or an application in day-to-day life of a person or an application which might makes the day-to-day life easier for a person, it will get into the artistic work and it will come into the domain of copyright. But if you are designing something which is very good for day-to-day life use of a person, the design is of great utility for that person, you should go for a design registration under industrial property. So therefore, whenever we are talking of this artistic work, please remember that there is a possibility of your I should say design registration or a copyright registration. So you have to distinguish in that manner. Next, remember that architecture and craftsmanship, this all sort of thing that comes under architecture, they are taken to be artistic work by the government of India, and that's why it comes under copyright. Definitely, I will always say that whatever work you do, if you are trying to go for a copyright, let it be original, or you will be simply losing your money and maybe you will be drawn to the court of law. Next comes the cinematographic work. This work is any work which is a visual or a sound recording where the cinematographer forms these recordings into a cinematographic process. Cinematographer means everything that comes under the cinematic process. That is it may be a cinematography, it may be some sort of dubbing, whatever it is, it comes under this cinematographic work. And finally comes this original sound recording. When sounds are recorded, they should be original, right? This sound is completely different from music. Sound can be any sound which may not be a music, but it should be recorded in some media. It should be recorded in some media. Let me tell you that nowadays there is a common, I should say, habit of creating reels. So many of us go through the reels. See that whenever such reels are running, you will be finding a small sentence scrolling beneath that particular reel. If you are taking the music from somewhere, if somebody who has made the reel, he has taken the music from somewhere, that thing continuously scrolls below, right? That thing continuously scrolls below, that this is a song from this and this movie sung by this and this. And if the sound is original, it is written over there, original sound, because nobody wants to get into the litigation, legal litigation. All right. Now, for registering for a copyright, what are the conditions? I have talked till now what are the different domains in which you can be granted with a copyright. Now let us see what are the conditions. Number one, your work should be tangible. Right? As I have already told, that copyright registration can never be obtained for any sort of idea, your thoughts or your concepts. Although your ideas can be extremely beautiful, your concepts can be extremely interesting, but remember that you cannot ask for a copyright registration for the same. Once the concept or idea is materialized, or it becomes fixed so that it can be heard, it can be read, it can be seen. When such things come into the picture, then only copyright comes into existence. So number one point is your work should be tangible. Next comes your work should be original. Now, what is this original work? Now see here, this originality is normally tested by any court of law as a normal viewer's test. What is a normal viewer's test? Normal viewer means this is why this is completely in opposite polarity to a patent. Whenever a patent is subjected to an investigation by a court of law, remember that an expert of that subject will investigate onto that matter. But whenever a copyright is being tested, an expert's view is not expected. What is expected? That how a common man will behave to that particular thing. Let me tell you that there was a movie. I hope you have all listened to this movie or might have watched to this movie, an old movie of this Yash Raj films again, Band Baja Barat. If you look into this Band Baja Barat film, and there was a similar sort of film that was made by Sri Ganesha Films in this Tamil film industry, that was Jabardast. This Jabardast movie was having a different plot maybe, but there was so similarity of story, so similarity of characters, so similarity of the happenings in that movie, that Yash Raj Films sued an infringement issue in the court of law against Sri Ganeshan Films. And there was a long matter that litigated over the court, and ultimately Yash Raj Films won the case. and they were able to establish that their copyright was violated, infringed. Why it happened? It happened because in such a case, the examiner tries to look into both the sectors as a simple viewer. A common man, how he will iterate or retaliate to such a thing. उसको बाहर निकल के कैसा लगेगा मूवी देखने के बाद? अरे ये तो वैसा ही था. It is just like that. उसको अगर ऐसा concept आया उसके मन में, that becomes an infringement. Then your work no more remains original. You can fight, but this is one and only criteria, viewer's test. And this is an acid test for copyright. Please remember. So therefore, you must remember that your work should be original. And another very interesting sentence, you will find the second sentence you can find here, that uniqueness or quality is not required. Uniqueness or quality is not required. Even a bad work can be subject to copyright. That does not mean that you will make any sort of untowardly design onto a paper. आप हाथ में एक पेपर लेंगे, पेन लेंगे, कुछ भी एक खचर पचर बनाएंगे और बोलेंगे मुझे इसका कॉपीराइट दे दो. ऐसी बात मैं नहीं कर रहा हूं. But remember that even there are so many films which are not good in quality. हम वो मूवी देखने के बाद हमें ऐसा भी लगता है अरे यार ये मूवी बनाया क्यों था. इवन वो मूवी को भी कॉपीराइट मिलता है, यकीनन कॉपीराइट मिलता है, because without copyright no film comes into the market. Next, you have to remember that similar works that are independently created, it may so happen that there are similar works at the same time in two different parts of world, they are being independently created. Then it is possible, if that can be properly proved in the court of law. See that whenever two works are working independently, why I am stressing on that term independently? Because I will take one example. Suppose Professor Pathak sir and myself, we are doing research on a same object, but we are doing research independently. However, we are carrying out our research in two different rooms of the same building of a research institute. Now, Professor Pathak sir is a good friend of mine. He went for a lunch without locking his room. And I went into his room. I looked onto his papers, come back to my room and do similar sort of thing. Now, when Professor Pathak will be going into the court of law to sue me for a case of infringement, then there will be a question. Arey bhai, I will be saying, why Pathak sir, why you are doing this? We were working independently. We are working in similar field. Then there is every possibility then your idea and my idea may match. See, I am using the word may match. But now Professor Pathak will have every opportunity to say that I had access to his work because we are working on a same building on two adjacent rooms, where many a times it may so happen that we get out of the room without locking our room. There is every possibility by each of us to have an access to others' work if they are not properly vaulted. There is possibility. Then I will be in a soup. I am in the danger of getting properly criminalized. There is possible. So therefore, you have to remember that your work should be original in its nature. And if there are two persons working independently, maybe on different parts of the world, they are coming out with the same sort of thing, similar sort of thing, same is not possible, similar sort of thing, then they can be considered as original work by the court of law. In the next sentence, here you can find that this is one important point, that if suppose you are taking some inspiration of some work, you are inspired by some work, you are taking an inspiration of that, right? You are taking an I should say provocation from that particular work, that is, अगर ऐसा लिखा हुआ है तो ऐसा भी लिखा जा सकता है. If you are making some sort of work in that manner, remember that you must be able to prove through your work that you have used your independent skill, you have given enough effort, your independent knowledge has been reflected, and your sense of judgment has been reflected into your creation. If this was not there, then I am 100% sure that there could not be so many books published on a single issue. Since I am a Bengali, always Rabindranath Tagore is a good example of mine. Rabindranath Tagore has written some 300 poems in his life, maybe per se. But almost till date, Bengal has produced more than 6 lakhs poems and songs and something like that, or drama, which are based on his idea. Now, those ideas are inspired by R.N. Tagore. But if somebody simply copies that, that is a copying. Inspiration, taking an inspiration is not a fault. But after you are inspired, nothing to put for your own is a fault. That will be dealt very hard in the court of law for an absence of originality in your work. That you have to be extremely cautious about. And finally, your work must have some sort of creativity embedded onto it. Remember, mere hard work. I will be writing on a paper, I am a good boy, I am a good boy, I am a good boy for 1000 times. And then I am going to make a book of that. Now, nobody will publish that book. I will be making my own publishing house, the top publishing house, and I will be putting it as a book. Book ka naam kya hai? I am a good boy. Now, this is a copyrightable material. Nobody has done this. But nobody will give a copyright for that, because such a thing is a nonsense, and there is no creative, I should say, no creative domain onto this, or no creative component on this particular work. So your work should have a minimal creative essence onto that. These are the requirements of getting a copyright. Now you must see that whatever work you are going to go for a registration requirement, request for a copyright to Government of India, your original work should be there. Your work should not have been published earlier. That is a mandatory criteria. And suppose if an author is there who has written something and who has passed away, remember, he has to be a citizen of India at the time of his death. Then even his heirs can get a copyright for his work. And if he is an independent person, not working in any organization, whatever writing is there, it is his individual writing, his own wealth, then his family will be getting the benefit of that copyright. Now, finally, if a work is published in India, the author has to be a citizen of India during the publication. This is very important. Somebody who is writing a novel sitting in US as a citizen of US, he cannot take a copyright of his work in India. This you have to remember. Definitely, I am giving you the broad ideas, but there are so many laws and bylaws, I have always told you. So therefore, if you come across any of such litigation, kindly take legal advice. If not legal advice, at least you go through the Copyright Manual of India. Now, while getting the registration, remember that works that are not in tangible form cannot be copyrighted. Whatever work is that, if it is already in the public domain and whose original creator remains untraceable. Suppose there is a particular poem. There are so many poems like this, which we are listening through our generations. My grandfather used to sing that particular song. Then my father used to sing that particular song. My mother used to hum that song. Now I will be humming that song. My son will be humming that song without knowing who has written it. Because it might be a folk song. Nobody knows. But we cannot take a copyright of that on this day on my name, because it is already in public domain for a long duration of time. Public domain means any sort of thing which is in public. It may be a song which only rotates through mouths. It may be something on a newspaper. It may be something on website. It may be something on a advertising board. It may be something on a board. Whatever it is. If it is known, it cannot be copyrighted. That is for sure. copyright works for which the expiry period is over. Normally, a copyright in India is awarded for 60 years. So if that period is over, you cannot take a copyright of that work. You cannot take a copyright. Now it is in public domain completely. Once it is copyrighted, it is an exclusive domain. But once the copyright is over, the period is over, it becomes a public domain property. Now you can see that another thing, names, slogans, methods, facts, designs, symbols, they come under the purview of trademark law, which is industrial law, and therefore they cannot come under copyright. And finally, ideas, procedures, concept, discovery, etc. come under again the purview of Industrial Act. Therefore, they will go either in design or in patent or in trade secret aspects. And in the same manner, we cannot ask for a copyright protection in such a case. Now let us talk of the term of the copyright. Remember that copyright is never a lifetime of its duration in from country to country, right? For literary works, it is for 60 years. And if it is a broadcast reproduction means something which is broadcasted through radio or television. Remember that be a particular program in this Tumhara to Sur Bane Hamara. There used to be a very beautiful find that many persons are uploading that on. So if it is a copyright,
separate again.
Yeah. Anything, sir?
No, sorry, sir. Sorry.
Am I
Yes, sir. Yes, sorry.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The copyrighted only Doordarshan is entitled to upload it in YouTube. And if anybody tries to upload it in YouTube by his own, that will be completely criminal offense. Criminal offense, let me tell you. Since right now are uploading that song, just they are able to do that, perhaps because the copyright duration 25 years has passed after that period. Now comes the detail of copyright infringement. Now, this thing is very important because while we are writing something, it may so happen that unconsciously we copy something. It may so happen that we are doing it intentionally. That is fine. We are doing it intentionally. We know what we are doing. That is one issue. But even it so happen there is a scope in law which is called as subconscious copying, unconscious copying. All sort of things are there. Even if such cases are there, the copyright owner, the owner of the copyright may go to the court of law with the view that you have infringed his right. Now, what is this infringement? Let us discuss on that. We should be very careful that we should not go into any other's boundary. हम किसी के घर में भी घुस नहीं सकते. जैसे हम किसी के घर में दरवाजा खोल के घुस नहीं सकते विदाउट हिज परमिशन, वैसे ही हम किसी के क्रिएशन के अंदर घुस नहीं सकते या उसके क्रिएशन को हम उसके क्रिएशन के पार्ट को भी यूज नहीं कर सकते without his or her consent and permission legally. Okay. Now, if you get into the Copyright Act, then remember section 51, it is a red letter section in this particular Copyright Act. It is extremely important to understand how infringements take place. Now, what are the 4 types of infringement that is defined in this section 51? Number 1, a person without obtaining the permission of the copyright holder does any act which only the copyright holder is authorized to do. Now, what is the particular act that a copyright holder is authorized to do? Number one, as we have seen at the very earlier stage of this discussion, number one, he can go for broadcasting, he can go for able to sell that, he can do all these things. He will enjoy this exclusive ownership. Now, if anybody is doing that, for example, whenever we need a very, I should say, valuable book with us, there the particular book is in library of your institute, you are getting that book for few days in your name, for 7 days maybe, for that you have taken that book as a loan. You go to a photocopy shop and you ask for a photocopy of that book. Remember, this is a criminal offense. This is a criminal offense. But there is a fair usage policy also. If you are restricting that particular act for your own purpose, you are not distributing it to all. You are using it for your own purpose, for your knowledge, for your reading, for dissemination of knowledge in a classroom as a lecturer. You are not to be dealt under the infringement act. You are saved by fair usage. But still, remember that copying a book fully is a moral offense. Because if you purchase that book, then the creator of book will definitely get a royalty amount. And that is the reward for his creation. And what is happening here? If that book is costing within a budget of maybe 100 or 150. So don't you think that is ethically extremely wrong work? And this is on a moral ground, this is a severe infringement issue. Severe infringement issue. Next comes, suppose a person permits a place. Place means he has got a place, maybe he has got a building, he has got a ground in his judiciary, his jurisdiction, and he has permit to use the place for communication, selling, distribution, or exhibition of an infringing work. Arthat, there is a work which is having infringement of an copyrighted material. Suppose I have made 100 copies of a book. I have made 100 copies of a book without taking permission of the owner. That means that I have already infringed the Copyright Act. Now, or I have infringed the copyright, not act, but I have infringed the copyright. Now I am using this university as a place where I will be distributing that copied books to others. Now, university does not have any idea that what I am doing, what I have written to the university, please give me a place on which I will be standing and I will be distributing some books to needy people. The university will be happy. अरे भाई needy people को book दान कर रहे हैं, घे बाबा थोड़ी जगह घे, table घे, बसा तुम यानी करा. Now comes the point that here university is not copying, but university is allowing somebody who has copied, who has infringed, to use his place to do further broadcasting or further popularizing of that matter. Now university can be sued. This is not direct infringement, but secondary infringement or indirect infringement. Now at this point of time, university may say, I am not aware of this. I am not aware of this. Now they may be saved. Or he has no reason to believe. These are the two things that court will see. Whether university truly does not know this. It may so happen that university has on a good faith he has given. Are bhai, Kunal Datta is a employee of this university He is doing something, we have kept faith on him. So if you have to take him to the police station, you take him, not me, because I have kept faith on him. And therefore it has this another terminology you can see, has no reason to believe. They have no reason to believe that Kunal Datta can do such a malfunction in the university campus. So therefore, if they are not knowing this, that is not a violation. But if knowingly they know that I am going to do this, then they will be held into the court of law. Finally, if some person imports infringing copies of work, if some person imports some copy, which is already an infringement, right? He is importing to India. This is again and second an infringement. So that also becomes a very deadly thing, right? Now remember that if he is having such a copy for his own purpose, he is using it for personal viewing, he saved, he or she may be saved unless he distributes that material. Without obtaining the authority from the authority holder, or in any form, if somebody do it, remember that this comes under the Infringement Act, and infringement can take you to jail also, imprisonment also. Now remember that the plaintiff means that I am taken a copyright and mujhe lagta hai, I feel that somebody has infringed my work. Okay, if I claim that this work has been infringed, then it is completely my burden to prove in the court that my work has been infringed, right? And in such a case, I am to show the person on whom I am putting this allegation, he had enough access. Works are substantially similar, because the front person will always say, nahi mere dimag mein aaya tha, maine to unka liya hi nahi. Coincidentally हम दोनों का दिमाग साथ में सेम चल गया, हो ही सकता है. You cannot question this. दो देश में दो आदमी बैठ के काम कर रहे हैं, हो सकता है दोनों दिमाग साथ में चले. You cannot stop human from thinking. And if two persons are thinking on the same boat, on the same way, you cannot stop them. Nobody can stop thinking, nobody can question thinking. But if I am the plaintiff, then I am to prove that number one, that person had access to my work, and number two, there is abnormal similarity or substantial similarity in between our work. So these things are extremely important, you have to remember. Now I will be fast moving because I think I have less time left. I will be talking a little bit on the types of infringement. As I have told you that there are two types of infringement. One is direct copying, and other is which is known as primary infringement, and the secondary infringement. I have written there indirect copying, but that is not actually the act of copy. That is in some different manner, in some indirect manner, you are infringing or you are supporting the infringement. Number one, primary infringement. This is the direct act of copying. Direct act. Saral, you are copying something. For example, you can take photocopying a book and you are distributing it for commercial purpose. This is completely a criminal offense. And this is what is the best example of a primary infringement. However, question comes and the things become more and more critical when somebody does not copy completely from your work. They copy only a part of it. If there is such a case, I could read that somebody has taken a part of my work. The part may be a very small part, the part may be even an essence of my work, or the part may be a substantial direct copying. पैराग्राफ से पैराग्राफ उठा लिया किसी ने, then I am to establish number one, whether a substantial part has been copied, whether there is an objective similarity, and finally there is a casual connection. So these three things are important. One is substantial copying, other is there is an objective similarity, and finally there is a casual connection. And now we will get into one by one. See, whenever I am talking of a substantial copying issue, then I have to show that there is a profound degree of similarity between the alleged work and the copyrighted work. There is an extreme degree of similarity that I am to show. It is my duty. Next, if there is a substantial copying, what is meant by substantial copying? As I have told, entire paragraph has been copied. Then it becomes very evident that there is an infringement. But nowadays, there are so many possibilities. Somebody is taking your paragraph, he is putting it in some AI tool and rewrite that. And then he is copying, then he is putting. Then this is not a case of substantial copying. Then it will be a case of, you can see, then it will be a case of objective similarity. What is an objective similarity? A copy is a copy if it looks like a copy. See, this sentence is not mine sentence. This is a sentence given by some honorable justice in the Supreme Court of India regarding one of the very pressure cooker and magic cook, this cookbook. So there he had made this historic statement where it is written that a copy is a copy if it looks like a copy. So therefore, if somebody tells what is here, my phrase is here, that is essence comes, then you are done. Therefore, even though there is no definition, even though there is no particular definition of what is meant by a substantial part, it is judged in a case-to-case basis. And when I am talking of a case-to-case basis judgment, remember that the person sitting over there who is judging your issue is ultimately a human being. And therefore, his perspective matters a lot in this particular case. And if you are the plaintiff, it is your holy responsibility to convince him that yes, there has been a substantial copying. Remember that in this particular case, even essence of the copyright work may be of extreme importance to you. Essence. Both are different. Names are, there are two movies. The names are different. Characters are different, but leading to a same goal in a same fashion, in similar sort of happenings throughout the film. That means that essence is almost the same. So therefore, in such a case, the essence is also extremely important. Now you may ask me one question, sir, while the Bhagat Singh movie was there, then there was a Bhagat Singh movie in which Ajay Devgan ji has acted, then there was another Bhagat Singh movie in which Bobby Deol was acted, then there was no copyright infringement. See, both had taken the life of Ajay Devgan to be depicted from their point of view. From their point of view, everybody knows the life of Ajay Devgan. So if in that case a copyright has to be taken, you have to take a permission from their family, their heirs, or if some organization who is taking care of their entire thing, you have to take a permission, you have to take a license. Now, if that person has given a license to multiple people, there is no problem. One is making the movie from this manner, other is definitely there are substantial aspects which are going to come. Life of Bhagat Singh ji in jail, that does not come under the copyright, because even if you go for a copyright suing in the court of law, the honorable judge will also laugh at you कि अरे भाई तुम भगत सिंह जी को क्या दूसरे के लाइफ से दिखाओगे? That is not possible. So these are the things. There may be similarities, but in case of similarities, there must be enough support onto that. But remember that if substantial part is a manner that the court is particularly investigating, they will always look into the similarity, not the difference. If the defendants try to show, देखो मेरा यहाँ पे different है, that will not be much appeal to the court. जहाँ पे court क्या देखेगा, similarity कितना है. Similarity is much more of importance when a substantial part is under consideration of the honorable court of law. And finally, the degree of originality. Originality is a factor. You see, originality is a factor because some days back I had purchased from just one railway station. I purchased a book, my autobiography of truth, or that my experiments with truth, the autobiography of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So when I purchased that book, I could find that book only in 60 rupees. I could remember that I purchased the same book from Penguin some many years back when I was a student of class 11. I purchased that book almost of rupees 450 from a book fair. It was costing 450. Now that book is costing rupees 60. But definitely there is a difference in between the original format and the copied format. So definitely originality is a factor. Now, why that person has been able to copy it? Because Penguin had a copyright of that particular material, particular writing of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi ji, and 60 years have passed after that, and therefore that particular writing is now in public domain, and therefore they are able to have their own license of it. Objective summary has been done, and finally there is casual connection. Now, in order to prove a issue of casual connection, court will be trying to look into. Number one is the access. You have to prove that the person who has copied your work had enough chance to have an access to your work. This is what is called the access part of casual connection. If they have got an access, he might have stolen, he might have copied. That is not fully proved, but he has got an access. Whenever a person has got an access, he is in more chance of getting an infringement suit getting into his collar. Next comes similarity. Again, similarity. If the work is extremely similar to your work and he has got an access, then there is more chance of getting the infringement issue clear. And if there is a copying, if there is a substantial part onto that, then three things are there. Number one, that X person has an access to your work, the work is similar, and there is complete proof that it is a copy. Because if suppose you have made a drawing and somebody made a similar drawing, then definitely there is a possibility that he has seen your drawing and then only he has made. Because if they are extremely similar, this is not possible that two drawings can be exactly similar. Two sentences can be exactly similar. It is not possible. Sun rises in the east, and east is the direction on which sun rises. Both are the same thing. Coin is the same, only their sides are different. This you have to remember. And finally comes the secondary infringement. In the secondary infringement, you remember, as I have already told, that it is not direct copying, right? But you are providing an opportunity for copyrighted infringement. So whenever there is a copyright infringement, you are providing a place to allow for dissemination of that infringement copy. This directly. Remember, finally, that suppose such infringement is taking place. जैसे कि मैंने आपको बोला, विद्यापीठ परिसर में in the university campus, I am trying to distribute some copyrighted material. After making photocopies of that, I am distributing it. Now, if that work is not having any profit entitled to it, if some NGO is doing it, they may be saved in the court of law. They may say that we are doing for the benefit of people and I am not making any profit out of that. Then it is possible that you can be saved in the court of law. So this is the thing you have if I want to summarize, if you are the plaintiff, you must have to establish these two things. I have written 4 elements, but there are 2 elements in core. That is a typo. That you have to show the ownership of the copyright work. The copyright work is your own, and you must show that the work is original in nature. And then comes the remedies of copyright infringement. If suppose your work is copyrighted and somebody has infringed it, then you have to go for seek an advice from the court of law. And in such case, you can have civil remedies and criminal remedies as well. I think I am left with only 3 minutes. Can I have some 5 to 10 minutes extra?
Yes, sir, no problem.
Okay. Now let us get into the civil remedies that you can get in case of a copyright infringement. See, this is clearly defined in section 55 of the Copyright Act of 1950. What are the categories of civil remedies in a copyright infringement? One is statutory injunction, then there is pecuniary remedy, then Anton Pillar order, Mareva injunction, and finally Norwich Pharmacal order. Remember that all these things are simply legal terminologies, and I will be just giving you the idea that what these are actually. First of all, let us talk of statutory injunction. Statutory injunction means many times you have listened कि court से stay order मिल गया. Interim relief, and this interim relief in the terminology of copyright law is called interlocutory injunction. Interlocutory injunction means that if you has infringed your work, then the court will ponder over your claim through 3 different aspects. And then if it is satisfied, if the honorable court is satisfied, they will be asking for an interlocutory injunction. What is meant by interlocutory injunction? Suppose somebody is selling your copyrighted material. Court will stop that selling for time being, not permanently. Because unless the entire matter is resolved and disposed, no final decision can be taken. So court for time being will stop that selling. But in order to do that, court will look into 3 aspects. One is the prima facie case. Prima facie case means the plaintiff. Plaintiff means you are the person who has complained to the court, who is alleging the other person. That is the plaintiff. The plaintiff is able to show enough proof. He has got an overloaded things of proof to show that yes, what he is telling is correct. If court is happy with that proof, yes, the prima facie case factor is done. Next comes the balance of convenience. Balance of convenience is very critical issue. This is not only happening in copyright laws in India, but in all aspects, in which the court tries to find that if he allows the plaintiff's plea, then what will happen? अगर कोर्ट ने मान लिया, चलो भाई ये प्लेंटिफ सही बात बोल रहा है, and he goes for an interlocutory injunction for the plaintiff. कॉपीराइट जो आदमी चोरी कर रहा है, ऐसा एलिग्ड हो रहा है, उसका सेलिंग उसने बंद कर दिया. If he stops that, then what will be the loss of the seller and what will be the gain of the plaintiff? And on the contrary, if he allows the person to sell, then what will be the loss of the plaintiff and what will be the loss of the seller? Both the things the court has to check, because unless एक गुनाह सिद्ध होता है, वो गुनाह नहीं होता, it is just an allegation. A crime is not a crime unless it is proved. Therefore, the balance of convenience is extremely important in this issue. If the court is satisfied, and finally, if the plaintiff is able to show that because of such infringement, alleged infringement act, there is a damage or injury to him, then court is definitely going to go for an interlocutory injunction. So interlocutory injunction is a statutory injunction by which the plaintiff gets a relief from getting his work further infringed or further into the public without his permission, without his financial gain, unless the matter is disposed of in the court of law. Next comes pecuniary damages. Pecuniary damages is that if the plaintiff feels that the act of infringement has made him financially weak or financially damaged, then he can also seek for monetary benefit from the defendant. And if court feels that yes, this is true, then he may ask, the court may ask the defendant to go for a compensation towards the plaintiff. In case of an Anton Pillar order, this is a very critical order. This order is also made in other forms of law. You may see this also, that the court may order for injunction restricting the defendant from destroying or using the work. It may so happen that somebody has imported many copies of an infringed object and now he tries to simply burn it, destroy it in his premises. In that case, police force of the rank of under the rank of a sub-inspector of police, he may get into the territory of his territory and take charge of those material. ऐसे परिस्थिति में अगर उनके घर से बड़ा धुआं भी आने लगा या उनका फैक्ट्री से बड़ा धुआं आने लगा, so that becomes this Anton Pillar order when court will say कि you see what is there happening. And in such a case, the plaintiff's lawyer, you see here, there was a sub-inspector, now the plaintiff's lawyer can also get into the premise of the defendant. Next comes Mareva injunction. In case of Mareva injunction is more serious, where there is every possibility that the person or the defendant may be abducted, or he may flee from a country, or he may try to obstruct or delay the processing of court. If he is a very wealthy person, he may try to delay the proceedings of the court. If such a case is there, then the court may also go for injunction, where the defendant will not be allowed to do so in a legal manner. In such a case, the court has got the power to have his entire property under his custody, where such type of copyright infringed material may be placed or may be put in a confined or consolidated manner, in which there are, if there are certain kind of defendant is saying that by dint of this law to disclose to the court, because you see the Indian legal, out of that some person get, I would say I have that flexibility. not to disclose this information to the court of law. If such a thing happens, then the court will go for Norwich Pharmacal order, in which he or she cannot. There comes the criminal remedies, where the copyright infringement has been proved. There can be imprisonment for 6 months to up to a maximum level of 3 years. Fine can be from an amount of 50,000 copies you have infringed, that has to be returned to the. That how you are going to avoid a copyright infringement, because you may say to me that you have said so many things, but if suppose I have made an unconscious copying, हो गया, म्यूजिक में तो होता ही है, म्यूजिक में अनकॉन्शियस कॉपिंग होता है, बिकॉज म्यूजिक वो साथ ही स्वर से बनता है जिसका नाम है सा रे गा मा पा धा नी. So there may be subconscious copying, there may be unconscious copying, but even in such case, there are so many legal battles worldwide, let me tell you. So there should be always effort from our side that how we can avoid. So therefore the rule of thumb is that, number one, there is an assumption in your mind that there is a copyright of the material. So if you are trying to copy something from somebody, try to keep this thing in your mind that that material is copyrighted. So if that material is copyrighted, what you have to do? You have to give proper credit to the owner. Give that. Give that. If you give that credit, you are free from the infringement punishments. Now, if you are using some or others original literary work, artistic or musical work, it is important to check all licenses and permissions. Something is available on the net. There are so many musics which are available on the net, and if you are making some reel of yourself and you are putting that music behind that reel, please remember that whether that music is a licensable music and whether you need a permission or not. Be very careful. Or if you float it in the YouTube, some or other day you may get a legal notice that this is your problem, this is what you have done, this is what you have infringed. Now come to the court of law. Then you will be nowhere. Now you can see that every copyright owner will allow you to use their work. Once you obtain a license from them, you obtain a permission from them, you acknowledge their work. Now let me tell you one thing, that if some copyright owner wants that somebody should take a license from him or her against some financial negotiation, then he or she may not allow only the work acknowledged. आप किसी का चोरी करके acknowledgement नहीं चलेगा. You have to take the license from him, because he or she may be expecting some financial gain out of his or her work. Only acknowledgement may not suffice, they are required. So go for a license. And that's why you may see that whenever you are putting some of your research paper to a publication house for possible publication, you have to give the copyright. And once the copyright material is there, somebody is writing a review literature, and he is trying to use some figure from other publication into that literature, he has to take permission from the publication house. And in the reference part, he has to write the name of the author as well as the publisher. So he is taking the license from the publication house and he is acknowledging their contribution. So both he is doing unknowingly, but this is the legal, I should say, legal background of this particular action. Now you can see that if you are using a copyrighted work for your own purpose, it is under fair use policy. The fair use policy means that it is being used for some educational or research purpose. But even if it is for education and research purpose, please acknowledge. Otherwise, this is morally wrong. of the book